Hello everyone and good morning. Today we are replacing a battery on a 1990 Chevy Corvette or a C4 Corvette, and I'm just going to go over the steps on how to do this. Now the job is fairly simple. The whole goal is to just remove this gold panel right here, or in this car it's gold obviously, and once you get that off you'll have one or two hold downs. This is my first time doing this job, so I'm gonna learn as well as teach. But you'll have one or two hold downs. Then we'll take off the terminals on the battery. It should just slide off and the new one will go on. So let's get started. Some tools you will need are a T30 Torx socket or driver, a ratchet, a 10mm both in a socket form and an open end wrench form. Just have this one as extra. An 8mm, either a battery terminal tool if you have one, or just a plain box end 8mm for the battery terminals, and a flashlight if you want, just to make it easier to see stuff. The battery hold down is also a 13mm, I believe, so you'll also need a 13mm with an extension to reach down there and loosen that up as well. Once you have your tools ready, here's what you're going to remove. You're going to remove this 10mm bolt right there. You have 3 T30 bolts holding the fender liner to the cover, so 1, 2, and 3. And then you have a 10mm down there as well that you're going to have to just loosen up. I'm going to remove this bolt. Put it off to the side so I don't lose it. The next bolts I'm going to remove are these, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this wheel to the left just to make it a little bit more easier accessible. Now that I got my wheel turned, I'm going to go remove my 3 T30 Torx bolts off the fender line. That one's already loose, and they're both actually pretty loose, so I'm not going to use a ratchet. If yours are tightly on there, you could use a ratchet. If not, they should just come right off. That is one, and that is 2. That was just fairly simple. Okay, and you can see already that this cover is already fairly loose. Now, the last step, like I mentioned before, is to... Actually, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the last step is there is one more 10mm that is hidden. So you have the one on top over here. But if you come to the bottom of this panel, you can kind of see it right over there. No, not that one, but that one right there. You have to just loosen this one. Do not remove it all the way because this is on a slot. That'll make more sense when I remove this. But you just have to loosen that up with an open end 10mm wrench. So get on there, lefty loosey. Just gonna spin that a few turns. All right, and now this cover should just slide off. There it is. That's all she wrote. So by slot, this is what I meant. All you have to do is loosen it and it's gonna slide right out. And then that will stay in place, so when we put it back on, we can snug it back up. Go ahead and put your cover in a safe spot. This situation, I'm just gonna put it on the driver's seat, and on to our next step. What I'm going to do next is you do one of two things: either remove the hold down, which I actually just felt, and this one seems like it is broken because it was already loose, but it is a 13mm, so yours shouldn't be like this. You would just take an extension, your ratchet, or whatever you can do to get it to fit in there. I probably would have used a little extension with my ratchet, and loosen that up. And this hold down should just pull right out. Yep. As so. And there is only one on the right side closer to the firewall. The other one, the other side is just getting tucked under. And our next and last and final step is to remove the battery terminals. Now, always make sure when removing a battery, you always take off the negative first. The reason is the whole body of your car is grounded, which means the negative terminal is attached to the body. While I'm loosening this, if I touch metal, it's not going to cause any issues because it's already touching metal. If I remove the positive, however, and the negative is still on there, and I accidentally touch my wrench to something metal on the car, it's going to cause a spark, or it's going to cause a short circuit straight to the battery, and that's not going to be good. It's very dangerous. You don't ever want to touch the positive and the negative together with just like a bare piece of metal or a conductor. So always remove the negative first. In my situation, I have a quick disconnect, so I'm going to remove that off the way. My negative is disconnected. I will take my 8mm, loosen up my positive terminal. There you have it. Make sure you don't lose this bolt. I'm just gonna put it in my little bolt pile right here. 2, 3, 4. And now the battery should just come up and slide out. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. Yep, look at that. This one's nice, has a handle on it. And voila, there you have it. This one is cold cranking operated at 550. This one was also at 550. So the old one and the new one are the same. That's honestly kind of low for a car like this with the 5.7, a bigger V8 engine, but it should work. This is what he got from the store. This is not my car, this is my cousin's car. I'm just doing the battery for him. But yeah, we should be able to go right back in now. So because I have this quick disconnect, all I'm gonna do is grab this, spin left, take the quick disconnect off of the old battery, put it on the new battery's negative side. On these, the part number is 75. So we gotta make sure the negative is on the right side of the battery. That should not be like that. I'll have to tighten that as well. But you get the hint, I'll tighten that up. And then the positive is obviously gonna go back on when it's on the car. So I'm gonna put this back in. I need both my hands, and then I will resume this video. Now this is pretty funny. The reason this hold on wasn't working was because the bolt for it was actually down here. I'm surprised that did not fly off when the car was driving. So I'm gonna have to make sure that I put this back on when the hold on's going back in. So if your hold down is loose, just make sure you have a bolt coming from the bottom that this, a nut coming from the bottom that this bolt can tie down to, right over here. My hold down is now in, the battery is on there securely. My next step is to put the positive terminal on first. Again, we took the negative terminal off first, but when putting the battery back in, we have to put the positive one back in, again for the same reason. That way, while we are tightening the positive terminal, if we hit any metal, because the negative is not attached, we have no short circuit. So, get my left hand in there. Put that on, it's an 8mm. Go ahead and snug that up. That was a 13, so I was correct about that. And when you're tightening this, there's no reason to go Superman strength on it. All you have to do is make sure it's snug to the battery. What I'm doing is just going until I feel a little bit of resistance and adding like a quarter turn to it after that. So I feel a little bit of resistance here. Maybe adding like a quarter turn. Like that, and I consider that snug. Over tightening it can cause some damage to the battery terminal or the battery bolt, so that's all you have to do. Once the positive is on there, go ahead and attach the negative. If your car is normal terminal, it'll be the same concept, put an 8mm on there. Because I am, and be careful, there is gonna spark a little bit obviously when making that first connection. But because I am my quick disconnect, I'm gonna just tighten that up. And my battery is now back on. what I'm gonna do next is just test out the brand new battery before I put all this back together. So I'll go in the car. I'll move this on the roof for now. And let's just see if she'll start. Good sign, we got some power here. Right away, awesome. So we'll let that run for 30 seconds here just to give the new battery a little charge. That's good, yeah, this car was having problems starting before, so that's all she wrote. My next step is going to be just putting that cover back on, reversing the steps, so sliding the cover back in, tying the bottom 10 millimeter up, putting my 3 Torx screws back in, and then my top 10 millimeter in, and the job is done. Slide that back in place. These go in front, so the panel will go behind the fender cover. So snug that back up. So these in first. One. 2. And all right, I do not know where the bottom portion to this went, so that's fun, but I will find that, and that will be number 3 right there. The last step will be just to snug this down. And voila, the job is done, minus me just having to find the bottom portion of this. I made sure everything is lined up. The door should open freely, and it does. And we are done with the battery job. If there are any questions, please comment below. Fairly easy. If I were to do this without taking this video, probably would take me like 15 minutes max. So fairly easy job. Hope this video helped you. And again, if you have any comments, put them down below. I will answer them as quickly as possible. And thank you for watching. Peace. I found it. It was just on the ground. So if that happens to you, you'll just put that as so. Then that bolt goes on. And don't worry, I didn't forget. I had to add this part to the video because I didn't show myself tightening those down, but I just tightened those 2 down. If you got 3s, you tighten those 3 down and just snug that up.